go ahead and get started. Everyone, thank you so much for coming to the office hours. Of course, we do this every month. Today is June 2nd. So I want to say this is our 17th office hours, 18th office hours, Corey. I don't know. I try to keep count, but the numbers just roll and
I'm
we
gonna
keep
count
doing
it
it.
for next time so we know.
Sounds good. All right. All right. Everyone for in attendance, just let us know who you are in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from, what you do, what industry you're in. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, of course, you can put that in the chat as well, and we will answer that at the end of the presentation. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Aaron Oberdick. I'm the video marketing manager here at Nextiny Marketing.
And I am Corey Christian. I am our multimedia marketer here at Nextiny Marketing.
Awesome. So if you guys have been to office hours before, you guys know us. So thanks for being here. If it's your first time, of course, thank you as well for being here. We have the HubSpot Video Marketing Study Group. So before we begin, I just want to talk about a few groups that we do manage. The first one being the Video Marketing Study Group. This is a great place to join. It's a forum board where basically we talk anything video related. So if you have questions about pre production and strategy and how to come up with video concepts and ideas, or you have production questions about equipment, things, how to get video and audio all connected together. If you have post production questions, whether it be editing, adding graphics, music, really just anything video related, we're here to help. And the marketing study group is basically a whole community of people looking to do the same. So if you have questions, please join the marketing study group. We're going to go ahead and put it in the chat, the link, so you can join it there. And then also, we ask if you're interested, register for our next Hug event. So, our next Hug event is really going to specifically focus on video pre production. We're going to talk about all the different types of videos, strategy, and preparation that we go through here at Nextiny Marketing, and how we go through the entire process of creating a pre production for video. So, if that sounds interesting, or if you want to learn more about pre production, of course, make sure you register to that Hug event. Hopping into the agenda here, we're going to talk about a few different things. The first thing will be the HubSpot Video Bootcamp for marketing, sales, and service. So we just wrapped up our second bootcamp. It was really great. We had a blast doing it, and we're going to start a third one on July 20th. So we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about the ins and outs of what you're going to get in that bootcamp and show you how to register for that. Then we'll go through some few video news, things that have come out in the last month that we want to touch on. And then last, we'll conduct that Q&A. All right. And Corey, go ahead and stop me if anyone has a specifically related question, because I know I'm just running through
Of
here and I
course.
can't really see the questions. So,
No, you got it. I'm watching.
all right. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be the bootcamp for video marketing, sales, and service. What exactly is it? So it's a 6-week course related to video recording and editing, and also strategy and implementation. So basically, 6 weeks, you go through an entire course and you learn how to create video on a regular basis. So each week, you'll have an assignment. You'll create email signatures, sales outreach videos. You'll create testimonial videos. There's a lot that goes into it. But basically, if you're trying to implement video into your marketing strategy, but you don't know really where to begin, this bootcamp is a great experience for you, because really we just kind of get the ball rolling on video. We kind of show you how we work internally at Nextiny on video pre-production. We walk you through how we come up with a video concept, and we walk you through all the pre-production work that we do, creating outlines and scripts. Then we go into video recording, everything that you need to know when you hit record and how you should focus on the lens, into video post production. And after you record your file, how to go through the editing process. So it's really just a nice crash course on how to get started with video, how to start creating videos on a regular basis. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely register. We're going to put the link in the chat for you to check out. And we're starting on July 20th. So that's Q3 boot camp. This will be our third overall boot camp. So we've refined it pretty well, and we're pretty happy with where it exists right now. So if that all sounds interesting to you, definitely check out the link in the chat that Corey's putting, because we'll have the registration open for the next boot camp coming up.
And we do have
Again,
a question here, just on
yep,
from Dan Tyre asked, how much does the boot camp cost?
the boot camp is completely free. It is an educational workshop that you'll learn a lot, and you don't have to pay anything for it. So there you go. All right. And if you guys do have additional questions about the boot camp, I know we've talked a lot about the boot camp in these office hours kind of continuously. So I'm going to move on. But if you do have questions, during this presentation, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If you think of a question afterwards, you can hop over to the study group and ask the question there. And then Corey and I will be able to pick it up there as well. All right. So hopping into some video news, I'll hand it over to Corey here.
Yeah, so I just pulled a couple of things out that I've seen recently that have popped up. This one is the Godox Genius mic. This little thing's pretty cool. If you look at it, the image on the left here, there is a headphone port. There's a USB-C option or a Lightning option. So you can use this mic with any kind of mobile device, which is really nice. It's very flexible. And it also has, if you look on the right, there is a normal headphone port on the back, which is something that's missing from a lot of um, cell phone style setups, is a way to monitor your actual audio while you're recording. So you kind of just have to hope that it sounds good. But this mic has that built into it. So you can plug a set of headphones in there. And be able to kind of just make sure that the audio that you're getting sounds good. There's not wind noise or anything like that. And they're really pretty affordable too. There's something like between 39 and 59 bucks for them, depending on which connector you need. A couple of them right now are on sale. Looks like they're only like $25 or so. These are a really great option if you're just looking to kind of upgrade your cell phone audio for any kind of, even just quick videos that you need to film or anything like that, that maybe your cell phone isn't your go-to camera, but this will kind of level up that quality just a little more so you can kind of use it in everyday instances as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. I like the concept of the fact that we go through the boot camp and we have so many people starting with video, but they don't have a video camera, right? And so we always tell them the best camera you can get is the one you already have, and it's typically your cell phone in your pocket. So just kind of like bumping up that quality of audio, which I know is kind of hindering when you're recording on the newer phones because new phones record in such high quality. You're shooting in really nice 4K footage, but if your audio stinks, then you're kind of limited a bit there. So yeah, for a nice cheap price, that seems like a really reasonable thing to pick up.
Yeah, and they have like pop filters and windscreens and dead cats that you can put on them, and all different kinds of little like accessories for that, which is great as well. And they also have on their site, they have some videos. They're up on YouTube as well, of just some people kind of in everyday scenarios. Like it's a woman filming real estate videos, and she's filming herself in all these locations, walking around outside and in buildings and stuff, so you get a sense of the camera audio and then the audio coming from the Genius mic. And it's like, wow, that's a huge upgrade just from plugging this one $25 accessory on.
Mhm.
So that's a really cool little investment right there, which I like.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we'll move on here.
Yeah. This is kind of a big deal. This is, maybe a little bit outside of the realm of a lot of our current standing in marketing videos and things like that. But this I included this in here because although this is, a feature film movie camera, right? It's the Alexa 35 was just released from Airy, and this is a huge deal in the industry because this is their first new sensor, I should say, in 12 years. For 12 years, they've been using the ALEV3, the same sensor in all of their cameras, from multiple ones in the LF and in the 65 using three of them and stuff like that. Um, this is the first time they've created a new sensor, the ALEV4. With this comes 17 stops of dynamic range and just incredible flexibility. If you look at the camera itself, it's really compact. It's very easy looking to use. They build these things like tanks. I've actually been to the Airy warehouse factory in Munich and seen where they build these things, and they have like earthquake testing machines that they strap the cameras down onto, and they just shake them super crazy to see if any screws fall loose or anything like that, and make sure that no matter what you do to this camera, at the end of the day, it's going to turn on. They even have one in their lobby area that went through a semi truck fire, and it is still connected to a monitor and outputting a beautiful image as you walk in. So you get to see yourself on the movie camera, and then you see the burnt, charred, broken camera in the corner that they're shooting it with. So these things are built like tanks. If you see that this one kind of on the bottom that's being operated on a Airy Trinity by Alan Lennox, he is a really fantastic operator. I took a bunch of workshops with him actually out in Munich. Um, you can see how kind of compact and just easy this thing is to use for something that's that high of quality. The main reason I kind of wanted to touch on this is because if you look on the right, there's this new thing called Airy Textures, which I think is just super cool. Um, Basically, what it is it's allowing you to adjust the image quality, the actual picture itself, in terms of detail and texture and grain and sharpness in a way that you've never been able to do before. Ari kind of refers to it as almost like a digital film stock, which is really um, kind of a really great way to explain this. It's a really organic feel to the footage, and you can really kind of change the way that it looks. And while this might be, this really kind of high end, crazy thing that a lot of us might not necessarily always work on, it's interesting to kind of see what's happening in the industry and notice that things like skin tones, right? This top one, they're really paying attention to focusing on diverse skin tones and worrying about cosmetic features and making sure things look smooth and nice and clean, no matter who your subject is. So there's some really, really interesting things going on. There's tons of them. The bottom one there is nostalgic. It's very grainy and it looks very kind of old, kind of vintagey film. So there's just some really kind of cool things that this camera does. And again, it's maybe outside of a lot of our usages, but it's interesting to see where the field is going, and that this is I think going to be something that will be a big thing moving forward in the next 10 years or so, is the texture of your video and what it looks like and feels like.
Right. It definitely is a good kind of like call to action from these higher end cameras. And they trickle, right? Their features trickle down as technology evolves and things get a little bit cheaper and cheaper. Their features kind of trickle down into the cheaper cameras and the lower end cameras that we use on an everyday basis. So it's just cool to see kind of, yeah, how they're evolving the technology and where they're coming from, kind of that cutting edge stuff that we'll see maybe in the lower end models maybe in 5 6 years from now. So very cool stuff there. All right, let's hop into some bootcamp questions. So these are questions coming out of the bootcamp. They're coming from the study group that we just kind of pulled and we want to talk a little bit more about focus on. So first question is, how far should I be away from my window light? And this came from the boot camp because we talk a lot about the intention of lighting, right? So making sure that you put some sort of light in front of you, making sure that you're nice and bright and you're not you're illuminated correctly, you're not shadowed at all. The subject, you are the subject, so people want to focus on you, so you want to make sure that you're kind of giving that content correctly. So lighting really helps with all of that. Now, let's say you don't have any sort of artificial light, right? Like, so I have my ring light on here. You can see from my video, and as soon as I turn it off, you can see how much shadow occurs on me. Now, if I didn't have the two windows in front of me, there would be no light in this room, right? So I would be completely dark. Now, what is the correct distance that you want to be from that window? That's completely relevant to there's a number of factors that really go into it. The first one is going to be, is your camera auto exposing? So I'm using my webcam from my computer right now and it's on an auto exposure. So if I have a ton of light flooding in, the camera's going to auto expose and try to correct that. Of course, if I'm sitting a foot from the window and I'm so, the sun is directly outside and I'm being blasted, it still might not do a great job and you still might be a little too bright. So, of course, then take a step back. The biggest key is really just looking at your image on the computer, right? So, I can obviously see my own video right now. I can see how the lighting is reacting to my video frame. So, I want to make sure that I'm not too illuminated, of course, not too shadowed as well. So, a good idea is going to be anywhere between 6 to 10 feet from a window, but it's completely relevant on your camera and the exposure of your camera. So If you guys have more questions about that, please ask in the chat. Corey, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, there is kind of a lighting terminology that's used for this, the inverse square law. Basically, it kind of boils down to the further that you get away from something, right, the dimmer the light is. So the closer you get to it, the brighter it will become. Every time you double that distance, you half the amount of light that's coming out. So if you think of it in terms of lighting, right? I need more light, I move closer to my lights. I need a little less light, I move further back, right? So it changes the intensity of the lighting based on your distance to the object itself and fall off and things like that.
For sure. All right. So we'll move on to the next question here. If you are doing a virtual shoot with a client, do you tell them what equipment to get or do you supply them with what they need? So this is kind of it's situational based, right? Because some clients are a little bit more versed in video. Maybe they've gone through a boot camp, right, where they've learned kind of the basics and ins and outs of video. They're not comfortable with it, but they know the very basic terminology. Then you have other people who just zero video skills or anything. They've come to you for that video connection, and so they basically want everything for you. So what we do is, if they have equipment, what we first try to do is give us an equipment list, right? Let us digest what you have and understand how we can effectively put it all together remotely for you, and then have you capture everything there. Now, if you have zero experience, zero equipment, what we're going to do is we're going to request something like a video station that we build here at Nextiny. So basically, it's a camera, it's a light, it's a microphone, it's all kind of interconnected together. And it's connected to basically one capture device where you just plug it into one USB plug into your computer. And now you have camera, audio, and light all in one. So Corey just shared there in the chat how to build a professional quality video studio at home. It's a blog we wrote at Nextiny, and it kind of actually walks you through how I specifically have built all of these video packages for our clients, and how we've pieced 20 individual video pieces together, and then we just mail them the one thing so that they receive it, plug it in, and they're good to go. So check that blog out if you want to learn more a little bit on how to piece something like that together. All right. So our third question is, lighting with a green screen is difficult. Any suggestions? Corey, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I actually, so I used to teach a number of workshops for YouTube at the YouTube space in New York. And one of the classes that I taught was actually a green screen workshop for the Next Up program. So it was all kind of new and up and coming creators that came in to try and level up the quality of their video. So one of the things that we kind of really tried to hammer home with green screen lighting is that you need more lights than you will think. Like, at a minimum for green screen, I'd say you probably want like 4 to 5 lights at least, because the biggest thing is getting shadows off of the backdrop and then lighting yourself separately from that, right? So there should be kind of 2 separate lightings going on, lighting your subject and then lighting the backdrop completely separately. Um, Another thing, and it sometimes is not always possible just because of the constraints of space, but moving your subject away from the green screen and getting
Mhm.
them further away from it can help remove some of the green spill that could be happening. There are also some tricks like going in, there's a couple really cool things that you can do with like channel editing and pulling some of the greens out of your yellows and stuff like that to try to remove, like, for example, if someone has blonde hair and there's a lot of green screen showing through, like, you can get creative, but truly, you should not have to if it's lit correctly. So really kind of separating your subject from that background and pumping a lot more light on the actual backdrop itself.
All right. And then the next question, which I accidentally bumped up about a minute ago, is what's your opinion on background distraction? So I've heard you talk about the ideal background and adding things, but what is too much? And this is a great question because it's really dependent on you, right? Like, how much do you want to fill in? The main thing is we always talk about adding relevant things, but making sure nothing is distracting. That is the biggest key there. So you see, I have a piano in the back, I have a few guitars, but That's all they are, right? You looked at them, you might have registered, hey, that's a guitar, but you've moved on. There's nothing to read, there's no text or anything that's physically distracting you from digesting the content that we're teaching, right? So, making sure that there's my biggest thing is making sure there's no text, no words or signage or, you know, eat, pray, love kind of thing on the wall, because that is very distracting. People will continuously read that, especially if you're very boring. If you're giving a presentation that's not engaging and it's very monotone and slow, people are going to be very distracted and they're going to start looking around and seeing what you're into, what's in your house, what's on your shelves, things like that. So I always
Reading the
say,
book titles.
yeah, exactly. So just making sure that you have a nice clean background, there's no such thing as too little, right? Like if you're in front of a nice clean textured background and you have a nice depth of field, that's going to be good enough, and that really is nothing in the backdrop. And then on the flip side, if I'm teaching a musical course, this would be perfectly relevant for the backdrop. So if we're doing a video course, maybe I would add some tripods or add some like a light in the back that's visible that you can actually see is a production light. So really just maintaining making sure that it's all relevant in your background if you're going to add anything in there. Corey, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing, like you mentioned, books, and stuff like that. One of
Yeah,
the things you can do is you could always flip the spines around if you are shooting in front of a bookcase. You don't read titles. You can get creative and kind of turn things away from the camera just to make, like, words on things, for example, a little bit less noticeable. Um,
hmm,
and there is limitations certainly with using, for example, like webcams versus a DSLR or something like that, or a higher end camera. Like if I could blur my background out more, right, you wouldn't even be able to see anything that's behind me.
right.
Um but it really is dependent on the gear that you're working with as
Mhm.
well. And just think, aesthetically, what looks good to you, like, it part of that comes into it, but I think you also have to make sure you maintain a level of professionalism, right? Like, if you wouldn't want this to be the background of, a call with your boss or something, why would you have it with any other client or any other
Absolutely.
subject, right? It's just kind of consider what your environment. If you do have a lot of things, if you
Mhm.
are maximal, make sure that they're displayed, right? If
Yeah.
you've got, Funko Pop collection that's, huge and growing, put lights on all of them, or try to,
Hmm.
make things stand out so that it's obvious that you're showcasing those things, not just
Right.
trying to hide them.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. We'll hop over to the last question we had. My Sony A6300 camera is unresponsive when I plug it into my computer. Any ideas how I can use this as a webcam? So, yes, so we get a lot of these where they, say, "Yeah, I got a nice camera. I bought it for a couple $100. It's in my closet. Let me pull it out and see if I can use it as a webcam." They go to plug it in. They use, USB, or if it has an HDMI, they plug it straight in, HDMI to USB, and they're going, "Hey, it's not working. Like, why is the video signal not coming through?" And really, the reason is cameras have processors in them, but they just aren't fast enough. They aren't fast enough to send that digital signal out of the camera into a computer on a consistent basis. And so they have these things, what they call capture cards. And basically, that's your middle ground from your camera to your computer. So you purchase a capture card, and what it does is it'll take that digital signal out of the camera, convert it into the correct signal, send it to the computer, and keep it at a consistent basis so you don't have any quality loss or dropping or variable bit rate as it kind of like is coming through. Um, so yeah, capture card is your solution. There are tons of capture cards out on the market. There's all different brands, but they range anywhere between $50 to a couple hundred. It's really just dependent on what camera you're using and sending that signal on what capture card you would need. So
Yeah, and there are some new cameras coming out that are adding this as a feature, I think, as a response to so many people trying to do it with their cameras and being like, "Why doesn't this work? This should just
yeah,
work." So, for example, I think it's the GH5 Mark II, actually just gave an update. Panasonic has a webcam software. So you download, it's a little bit clunky because you have to download the Panasonic software, and then you have to make sure you connect your camera, and then you have to configure the camera to be the right one in all of your software, things like that. So there's a couple extra steps involved with it. Um, but they are starting to come out with it. And like I said, Panasonic does have one. I'm not sure, the exhaustive list of them. I know some of the Sony camcorders and some of the more broadcast style cameras do have those as a feature, but I believe it's the GH5 Mark II does indeed have that.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll kind of continuously roll as well with technology. So
Exactly. Yeah.
all right. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to head on over to the study group. Of course, that's kind of our 24/7 question hotline, really. If you guys have any sort of questions really throughout the week or throughout the next month, because our office hours is kind of on a monthly basis now. So if you have more questions, make sure you register for that, sign up and ask over there, and we'll definitely answer you there. If you have any questions now, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We'll hang out for another minute or so before the presentation's all wrapped up. Can you hear the rain coming down that just started pouring outside my window? Is my mic picking that up at all?
No, I don't hear it. Of course,
It's a
yeah, that's what you get for using the Yeti mic. It's canceling too much.
yeah, right. And I noticed that my lighting dropped pretty significantly too because it got a lot darker. A big gray
Mhm.
cloud came, so
Yep, that's what is it? Tropical storm Alex, I guess.
I guess we're having
Something like
another one.
that.
So
Yeah.
all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. It looks like no more questions are coming through. Thank you, everyone that did come and who was in attendance. Of course, this recording will be available as well afterwards. So if if someone hopped out halfway through, you're welcome to watch the other half in the recording later on. But again, thank you so much. We will see you in the next office hours.
Thanks everyone.
All right, bye bye.